It's 3:32 a.m. on the 18th of August 2025. Over the Caribbean Sea, a U.S. Air Force B-52 hours bomber cruises at 35,000 feet, steady and calm. Inside the cockpit, the only sound is a steady beep, the radar warning tone. Fire control radar lock, southern bearing, the systems officer says. Major Lisa Thompson checks her screen, confirms position, international airspace, 200 miles north of Venezuela. She opens her mic. Venezuelan radar site. This is Buffalo 5. Cease illumination immediately. No answer. The tone grows louder, sharper. Then a new alert flashes red. Missile launch. Through the small window, she sees a thin white line rise from the dark horizon, curving north fast. Her hand slams the throttles forward. Countermeasures out, full power, she shouts. The bomber rolls. Chaff canisters burst behind her, streaks of silver scattering in the moonlight. For the next 40 seconds, everything will decide whether this massive plane survives or becomes another headline before sunrise. This wasn't a random radar glitch in the night. It was the spark from a training drill that spiraled out of control, one that pushed two nations to the edge of open conflict before dawn. 2 days earlier, Venezuela launched a large military exercise called Operation Bolivarian Reserve 2025, designed to show off its new underground weapon depots and advanced radar systems. Across the central region, bunkers came online at once, linked by encrypted channels and monitored by visiting foreign advisors. On paper, it was routine. In practice, it was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The official notice sent abroad was vague. It failed to clarify how far Venezuela's radar sensors would scan or how long the drill would run. Washington responded firmly, reminding Caracas that the Caribbean's international airspace belongs to no one and that any hostile act toward a U.S. aircraft there would be treated as an act of war. But the message never reached the colonel running the radar site near Barquisimeto. That officer, Colonel Antonio Vargas, was proud, ambitious, and eager to impress. After 25 years in uniform, this exercise was his chance to prove that Venezuela's new systems could challenge the West. His orders were clear: track all targets, but do not fire without command authorization. Still, with advisors observing every move, Vargas felt the pressure to perform. When his radar picked up Buffalo 5, the B-52 patrolling offshore, he didn't see routine data, he saw an opportunity to prove strength. But when his comms line failed and no one answered above him, pride overrode caution. One radar lock too long, one wrong assumption, and a training scenario turned into a real-world crisis that would burn through billions before the sun came up. If you think Vargas was defending his nation, press 1. If you believe he went too far, hit 9. And watch how the sky answered back. The warning tone in the B-52 cockpit went from steady to screaming. Missile launch confirmed, bearing south. Major Lisa Thompson snapped into action. Countermeasures now. Flares burst behind the bomber, glowing against the clouds, while metallic chaff scattered into the night. The B-52 couldn't outrun a missile. It had to outsmart it. On the ground near Barquisimeto, Colonel Antonio Vargas watched the missile climb on his radar. The room trembled as it broke through the clouds. Target locked, said Sergeant Sanchez, his voice tight. Vargas said nothing. The screen showed everything, a clean trajectory toward the sea. Inside the bomber, Thompson's voice cut through the noise. Buffalo 5 to command. We're under attack, executing evasive maneuvers. At E3 Sentry Command, 200 miles north, came the calm reply, copy, Buffalo 5, jamming corridor active, F-22 seconds inbound. Stay north. Thompson pulled hard on the yoke. The bomber climbed, then rolled. 6 Gs crushed her against the seat. Deploying second flare set, she shouted. Orange streaks filled the sky. The missile seeker blinked through the interference, struggling to hold lock. Down below, Vargas leaned forward. Reacquire target, he barked. The radar switched frequencies and caught a faint return. Impact in 40 seconds. Thompson forced the bomber into a violent dive. The heavy aircraft shuddered, alarms blaring. Her vision tunneled gray. Stay with me, she whispered. gripping the controls. The missile streaked closer, then vanished in a blinding flash. The explosion erupted just behind the bomber, fragments rattling the fuselage. The B-52 shook, but held steady. "Engine check," she said. "Minor damage, still flying," her co-pilot answered. Thompson steadied her breath. "Command, missile detonated close. Aircraft operational, exiting north." "Copy, Buffalo 5, came the voice from Sentry. "You're clear. F-22 escort inbound." In the bunker, silence replaced triumph. Vargas realized the shot had missed and that the world now knew. Every radar, every satellite had seen the launch. The fuse had been lit. If you were in that room, would you confess or deny? Press 1 for truth, 9 for pride, and see how fast the sky answers back. The missile alert moved like a shockwave through the network. The E-3 Sentry relayed the warning. Within moments, the message hit command centers and reached Washington. The feed was simple and deadly. US bomber targeted by a missile launched from Venezuelan airspace in international waters. At the Pentagon, analysts checked satellite images and radar tracks. This was no error. A missile had been fired. The decision loop sped up. The directive was clear: protect all aircraft and seize control of the skies. Rules of engagement tightened. No hesitation. 2 F-22 Raptors from a forward base in the region sped toward the bomber's location. 4 F-16 seconds armed with AGM-88 HARM missiles followed, cleared to attack any emission. 2 EA-18G Growlers pushed out to fill the spectrum with jamming and denial. A Virginia-class submarine moved into position to provide long-range options. The US Dwight D. Eisenhower altered course to cover the operation area. For a moment, the night sky over the Caribbean held its breath. Engine hums were the only sound. Inside Buffalo 5, the crew waited for their escort. On the ground, in the radar bunker near Barquisimeto, panic broke the earlier confidence. Colonel Vargas tried to reach higher command, but lines were unreliable and the radio room filled with static and shout. Operators watched their scopes die under broad jamming. The systems they had trusted became ghosts and noise. The rules of visibility had changed. If you emitted, you risked immediate targeting. If you stayed silent, you gave up the eyes that kept you safe. At Central Command, planners built a precise list of targets. The launcher that fired, nearby fire control radars, linked command nodes, and storage depots that enabled rapid rearm. The mission gained a name: Operation Central Storm. The goal was narrow: remove the immediate threat and degrade the network that could repeat the attack. Orders went out. Aircraft and ships moved. No one used the word war out loud, but everyone knew the cost of the next steps. The balance between measured response and full escalation was thin. If you had the final decision, would you strike back to remove the threat or hold off to pursue more diplomacy? The world held its breath now. Everyone thought it was simple: a missile launch, a narrow escape, a clear act of aggression. But as the first reports came in, strange details began to surface. In the bunker near Barquisimeto, officers reviewing the logs found missing data. The radar feed cut out for 12 seconds before the launch. The visiting foreign advisors who had observed the exercise were suddenly gone. Their files and equipment disappeared with them. Something didn't add up. Later, analysts noticed a faint echo on satellite playback, a ghost signal a few miles from the launch site. It didn't match any known radar signature. Moments before the missile fired, a small vessel had moved along the coast, transmitting a short encrypted pulse. When investigators tried to trace it, the signal stopped cold. What if the radar lock on Buffalo 5 wasn't the result of a mistake, but a decoy, a false return, planted to trick the Venezuelan system into believing the bomber was closing in? If so, Vargas wasn't the mastermind of an attack. He was a man reacting to a lie. Still, in Washington, it didn't matter. The missile had left its rail. The act was recorded. The rules were clear. A weapon fired meant a line crossed. Hours later, Caracas issued a formal apology, claiming a local commander acted without authorization. But the timing was too neat, the story too clean. By the time the apology reached the State Department, Operation Central Storm was already in motion. Maybe it was arrogance, maybe manipulation, or maybe someone wanted this clash to happen. If you believe Vargas was baited into firing, press 1. If you think he pulled the trigger by choice, hit 9, because what follows next will decide how the world answers. At dawn, the retaliation began. The calm Caribbean sky turned into a corridor of smoke and thunder. From hundreds of miles offshore, Tomahawk missiles rose from a Virginia-class submarine and a guided missile destroyer cutting through the waves. Each missile carried a 1,000-pound warhead, programmed with precision coordinates. Above them, 3 B-1B Lancer bombers released long-range munitions from 25,000 feet, while EA-18G Growlers flooded every radar band with static. Venezuelan scopes filled with snow, blank screens, and false echoes. The defenders couldn't tell where to look. Growler 1, full power. Copy. Flooding spectrum now. When a radar dared to emit, a HARM missile from an F-16 streaked down and erased it. The first confirmed strike hit near Barquisimeto, the same base that had launched the missile at Buffalo 5. 3 Tomahawks struck in sequence, 1 on the search radar, 1 on the command van, and 1 on the missile storage area. The third hit set off a massive secondary explosion that lit the valley like sunrise. Inside the bunker, Colonel Vargas hit the floor as concrete cracked above him. "Power down! Systems failing!" shouted Sergeant Sanchez, sparks flying from his console. The lights went dark. Vargas stayed silent. He understood now he had started something his country could not stop. Across the central region, explosions rolled like distant thunder. Weapon depots near Valencia and Maracay erupted in fire. Command centers collapsed. Each radar that came online was instantly destroyed. Within 40 minutes, Venezuela's air defense network had been erased. On board the E-3 Sentry, controllers watched every impact in real time. Central Storm in effect. All primary targets destroyed, a voice confirmed. From the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower F-18 pilots orbited in silence, their displays filled with smoke plumes rising from the coast. In the Sentry's medical bay, Major Lisa Thompson sat quietly, her hands trembling. Hours earlier, she had fought for her life. Now she was watching the price of her survival unfold below. The mission was complete. The sky was silent again, but the message was not. If you believe the strike restored order, press 1. If you think it went too far, hit 9, because what follows next will reveal who truly paid the cost. By midday, the Caribbean was quiet again. Smoke curled from the coast, where Venezuela's main defense grid once stood. The damage reports came fast. 4 major arsenals destroyed, 6 long-range radars gone, 3 command centers reduced to rubble. In less than an hour, nearly half of the country's air defense network had vanished. At U.S. Central Command, the operation was declared complete. All targets neutralized, no further hostile launches detected, no American lives lost, 1 bomber damaged, fully operational. It was called a measured response, but everyone in the room knew what it really was, a warning carved in fire. Across Venezuela, panic spread. Civilians posted videos of distant explosions and burning hillsides. In Caracas, Colonel Vargas was taken into custody by military police before dawn. He didn't resist. He simply said, "I thought I was defending my country." His arrest came too late to stop what had already happened. The government rushed to issue a statement calling it a tragic misunderstanding, but the world wasn't convinced. Some nations condemned the U.S. for overreacting. Others quietly supported the strike, noting that the rules of international airspace had to mean something. In Washington, the tone was firm. Officials called it proportional deterrence, enough to remove the threat, not enough to start a war. But deep inside the Pentagon, analysts saw something else. How fast a single radar error could trigger a multi-billion-dollar response. How one colonel's judgment could alter the balance of a region. On board the E-3 Sentry, Major Lisa Thompson stood by a window as dawn burned through the haze. She had survived the opening shot, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the explosion itself. History would call it Operation Central Storm, a strike that ended one threat but opened new questions. Was it defense or escalation? Deterrence or domination? Because in the modern sky, the next conflict might not give anyone a warning tone. It could start with silence and end before the world even knows it began.